Don't meditate to find peace. Meditate to meet reality. By meeting reality, you'll find clarity and acceptance. With clarity and acceptance, you'll soften the need to run from what is true, from yourself. And by softening the need to run, you will find stillness. And in stillness, there will be peace. Peace, then, is a fortunate byproduct of meeting reality. So let's break some of that down. It's obviously okay to have the overarching intention to find peace with a meditation practice. I don't think anyone starts to meditate or do any sort of contemplative practice without some sort of intention to be happier, to reduce suffering. And peace is one of those things that we often have in mind. Where this becomes problematic, though, is when people are intending for inner peace and expecting inner peace while they're doing the work of their meditation practice. And what this ends up doing, if held too tightly, or as made the organizing framework within the experience, is that it creates an oppositional relationship to what actually arises when it is not peace. And anyone who's tried to do a meditation practice knows just because you intend to have a certain experience doesn't mean it's going to arise. Rarely does it actually arise. Usually, what you're meeting when you close your eyes or just intend to be with your experience is a lot of noise and chaos, a lot of thoughts, a lot of uncomfortable thoughts, a lot of emotions, a lot of uncomfortable emotions, sensations, some pleasant, but a lot of uncomfortable sensations. Itches, you try to sit still, the lower back hurts a little bit, sounds, distractions, your cat crawling on you, like all of these things become what you're practicing with. And if your intention is, I'm here to have peace, and you have that in mind as a particular state that you're supposed to be experiencing, then all of these things become the enemy to your practice. And that creates more tension, more resistance to experience. And what does resistance create in your experience? Well, it will first create internal fracture. You'll be establishing judgment toward like what is allowed in presence, what do you want to be experiencing, and then what is not allowed in presence. Like what do you have to push away in order to get your peace? That's not cultivating inner peace. Any inner peace that's contingent upon certain experiences not being here is not peace, inner peace. It's conditional inner peace, and anyone can feel peaceful when the conditions are good or to their liking. So then, like, what are we doing in meditation practice if it's not like 10, 15 minutes where we're trying to shut out the noise and feel a little bit of calm? Well, we're working to reorganize our internal relationship to the ongoing flow of experience, to the incessant noise and the varying noise, the different thoughts that arise, positive, negative, expected, unexpected, and the different emotions that arise that we often feel blindsided by. Like, this is what we're working with in practice. And this is what it means to, instead of meditating to get peace, it's like what it means to meditate to meet reality. What does it mean to tune in and to meet what is here right now, to look at it and to be with it? When we're not doing that, when we don't have the intention to meet what is true and what is here, we're subconsciously resisting it. We're orienting to, we're trying to find a particular experience that we want. We're looking for that in our awareness. When we find it, then we hold on to it. Now we're gripping, we're creating more attachment. And then when that shifts, now we're more upset because it shifted and we're trying to get back to the experience. Do you see how that is actually antithetical to the experience of inner peace, which would be an internal container of spaciousness that can hold without constant contraction the ebb and flow of your inner and outer experience, but particularly your inner experience. So when you make the intention instead to tune in and to just meet whatever arises. I'm just going to meet and be with the direct experience of what arises. Well, now you're working at the level of the actual constituent elements that make up your experience and that are often making up your response to your experience. So it's just like, I'm just going to meet a thought when it's here. Okay, that's a thought. Like, I'm sitting here, I'm with my breath, I notice my mind start thinking about, like, whatever, that thing I said to that person yesterday and the face that they made at me. So instead of like pushing that out and it's like, that's getting in the way of my peace, we actually turn toward it and we go, okay, that's a thought. Like, what is the nature of a thought? It can be hard to tell initially. It's just like this fluttering of mental activity. It kind of sounds like a voice or a noise in your mind, but you bring your attention to it. And this thing is just like, we're so used to like flinching at those experiences and those thoughts because they can be mean to us, or they have an emotional undertone or trigger an emotion. So it's just like, I don't want to think about that. Well, when you actually turn it, you have this first maybe contraction around, that thought, that uncomfortable thought. Then you invite the body to relax, and then you start to see, all right, it's just a thought, right? It's not even like, whose thought is it? Did I ask to think that thought? Does it have my voice in it? Is it someone else's voice? And it becomes kind of like, again, we use this imagery in meditation, like watching a cloud pass through the sky. So instead of this like big scary thing, it's just like, it's just like a little chatter in my mind. I can be with chatter, right? I can allow it to arise. Nothing actually changes in my experience other than there's just some chatter there. There's no external threat immediately. It's like, all right, so that's just chatter. That's what it means to meet the reality of your experience. And that's then how your system reorganizes itself around the reality of experience. It goes, it's just a thought. And then you do that with emotions and sensations, these things that we're often subconsciously bracing against. And they're subconsciously organizing your life of like what you can bring your attention to and what you can't, what you avoid and what you allow. Like all of that is happening on a subconscious level we're just not aware of. So as those things arise, instead of we letting them condition reactivity or bracing, just like, this is what's here now. There's that uncomfortable emotion that typically I would go on my phone, or I'd have a drink, or I'd caffeinate, or I'd distract myself. What's it like to allow it to be here? And of course, if there's trauma, or it's a really intense emotion, or maybe it's something that's been beneath the surface for a long period of time and it's too much to handle, too much too soon, too fast, take care of yourself, put up some boundaries, open your eyes, maybe connect to a therapist if that's needed. So like, use discernment with these things. But for the most part, there's just a lot in the background that we can actually meet. We're just very used to not meeting. And so we allow it to arise. We feel that initial contraction, like, don't want to face that. Well, show me the ways you avoid stillness and I'll show you the patterns that run your life, right? That contraction, don't want to feel that, is the thing that's often organizing your life. Remember, it's pushing you into some action that allows you to not experience that. So you are moving toward more freedom and more response, more intentionality, and more options for your life when you can meet that moment that would typically create a contraction that would send you in a certain direction and soften. And that softening allows you to be with the flow of experience without it propelling you in a certain direction. That is optionality. That's having the capacity for intentionality. That's the space between stimulus and response. It comes from meeting reality. By meeting reality, we develop clarity and acceptance of what this actually is. Clarity of, it's just a thought. An emotion. It's a sensation. It has this feeling in the body. Yeah, it's scary. Yeah, it's intense. But it's not as intense as my subconscious mind is maybe making it out to be. Like, I can't be with this. That maybe is like a younger child programming when we didn't have the resources to be with that intensity of our experience. We're still running that as an adult. It's like, I can be with an emotion. I can be with fear. This doesn't have to be the thing that causes me to not go after any job interview or take any risks. Right? We develop clarity and acceptance, the ability to soften into our experience. With clarity and acceptance, We soften the need to run from what is true. Cool. So now these things are no longer organizing and pushing our life in certain directions. Soften the need to run from what is true, from ourselves. We're no longer crawling out of our own skin. Now we're actually here. We can be here. We can hold it with intention, without it propelling us in its usual direction. This is like making serious change now. We soften the need to run from what is true, from ourselves. By softening the need to run, we find stillness. Stillness, the capacity to be here in the full flow of experience without contraction and pushing and needing to turn away. And in stillness, there is peace. In stillness, there is peace. The ability to be with your experience in a spacious way without it defining you. That is how the experience of meeting reality leads to peace. But if you meditate with the intention just for peace, then you're just going to create more of the conditions that are getting in the way of that peace. Let me know if you have questions that arise. As always, if you want to go deeper into this work, if this particular way of relating to your experience is speaking to you, then the best way I can help to go deeper is the 30-day course. You can find that link in my bio, ask questions below, and I'll do my best to support here in the comment section if anything's arising around this topic. All right, have a good day. Lots of love. Take care.